everybody. So, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Rianne. I am 21 Acres Administrative Assistant, and welcome to our virtual farm walk. We're here with Emily Pollina, our education lead, and Erin Squires, who is one of our farmers. And there's Erin with the umbrella. Erin's filming today. It's really great to have this duo together. They're unstoppable, and excited for you to see with us. So today is not an ordinary farm tour day. It is a farm tour, but today is Emily's birthday. So she is so fantastic and loves to educate. That is her, she's so good at educating, and she wanted to share her day doing what she loves the most, and was super excited to lead the tour today, and just kind of like a full circle of, feeding into that joy that she shares with others, and what a way to honor her today. So thank you, Emily, for being born.
Thanks, Rianne.
Margaret, your mom is on, so thank you, Margaret. So happy birthday, Emily. And then we'll get started with the tour in just a moment, but I'm going to start by saying a couple more things. So a bit about 21 Acres. For those who don't know, 21 Acres is a living laboratory which serves to educate our communities around climate change and how to participate in climate action by promoting and building resilient food systems rooted in agroecology, as you'll see today, regenerative farming, sustainable land stewardship, and adopting sustainable building and living practices. And 21 Acres is located in Woodinville, Washington, on the ancestral lands of indigenous nations, including the Duwamish, Stillaguamish, and Coast Salish peoples. We acknowledge these nations as the original stewards of this land, and we honor both the land itself and the Coast Salish people, past and present. So thank you for taking a moment to honor this land and get back into how fortunate we are to steward this land. And thank you for learning with us how we're trying to steward this land for future generations. Okay, without further ado, I'm gonna hand it back to Emily and Erin. I'll be in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So I think we'll just about get started. The goats are still eating in there, so they don't want to hang out with us too much. A quick note, I am gonna take my mask off. We're super serious about COVID here. Oh, Erin, I'm getting some reverb all of a sudden. That works. Thank you. But Erin and I have talked, and he's keeping his mask on. We're staying 6 feet apart, and I want y'all to hear me a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and take my mask off. Like Rianne said, we are standing on the ancestral land and the land of the Coast Salish people. And we've been thinking about that a lot. Erin and I were talking about it this morning as we are in Thanksgiving weekend. So just want to kind of use this tour to highlight kind of the humility and experimentation we're doing on the land that we have the pleasure of stewarding, as we try to figure out how best to steward it. That was not super eloquent, but I think you understand what we're trying to say. So we are most interested in looking around and exploring what you folks want to learn about. There's a lot happening on the farm in November, even though there's not a ton of crops still growing. So to practice engagement together and how we're going to do this tour, can everyone use the chat box and please share where you're zooming in from and something you're interested in learning about or exploring today. So maybe I would say, Emily calling from Woodinville, Washington, or the farm, and I'm maybe interested in learning what these animals bring to climate action on the farm, why we have them. So we'll give you a second of silence to just go ahead and add that into the chat box. It can be specific, broad, whatever works for you. Maybe we can visit the goats.
We'll wait for folks to type in and respond. And I got to see some of people's people's answers to our Eventbrite questions that kind of gave a snapshot of what they're looking to learn, but we'd love for you to chat to us.
Yeah, we did write down some of them, Erin and I, but curious what you're feeling curious about in the moment.
Awesome. So we've got our first response from Joshua. writing, I am from Washington and I'm curious to see the effectiveness of animals on the farm and how they can be helpful on a global scale.
Global scale, cool.
Thank you so much. Let's see. Guess we'll wait to see if anyone else will type. Sometimes I take a long time to type myself. Oh, thank you. All right, Margaret writes, I'm in Brooklyn, Massachusetts. And
Brookline, yeah.
fun. And the new greenhouse is of interest. And Alexander, thank you, writes, in Seattle, curious about winter on the farm and what roles cover crop and restoration have during that time. Ooh, you're in for a treat.
Yes, those are the two things we were going to focus on. Awesome.
And then lastly, we've got Colin from Vancouver, Washington, and is curious what kind of animals we have. Well,
Great.
here, this is perfect. Thank you all so much.
Okay, awesome. So on that note, I think we'll get started and maybe we'll kind of walk out and talk about a few things on the farm and then we'll circle back towards the chickens to talk about animals. Is that cool, Aaron? Aaron is definitely our animal guy, so we'll get him to talk through that. I guess I also know a little bit. Yes. We know. Together, we are animal people. Awesome. So real quick, as we walk, and I'm going to have Rian and other people can jump in if we start to lose service or if it's getting a little bit hard to hear, please let us know and we'll stop walking while we're going. Yeah, I'll close it behind you. Aaron's concerned about our Houdini goat getting out. So we farm, I think there's a misconception that farms kind of shut down in the winter. And it couldn't be more wrong. There's so much that happens on the winter here. And I guess we're not quite in winter, although it feels it's raining. The ground is getting cold, not much is happening. So we farm really holistically, and there's a lot of ways to use regenerative practices on your farm and practice land stewardship in a responsible and respectful way. The lens that we use and we find to be the most helpful with what we're working with is called agroecology. And I saw several folks mention that on their Eventbrite forums as something they were interested in or knew about. But for those that don't, agroecology is basically, in essence, an ecological approach to agriculture or to farming. And we sort of look at what ecology is and we look deeper into that narrative. So it's a more holistic version of what our ecosystem is and what farming is. So it's not just like the farm and the wetlands is separate, but they're together. Ecologies and ecosystems working symbiotically and as a whole. We also look deeper into what ecology is. Ecology is political, ecology is cultural, ecology is biological, it's it's systemic, it's all of these things put together in layers and layers and layers. And the other big piece I wanted to highlight today of agroecology is this indigenizing aspect that we respect experiential knowledge. And that's what farming is. So the way that I farm here, Aaron and I farm here at the 21 acres land is very different than how someone might farm in Seattle or in Boston or in Alabama. Each soil type is really different. Every soil is going to be different. Every ecosystem is going to be different. Again, not just biological, but political, cultural, everything together. So we got to learn closely what's happening in the land that we steward. You want to add anything, Aaron?
No, you pretty much covered it.
Cool.
It's kind of an ever-evolving thing that we're learning.
Can you guys hear Aaron?
It's pretty quiet, but maybe you want to echo response.
Yeah.
I will just yell.
Yeah. He said it's an ever-evolving thing, agroecology, our approach to farming. Cool. So now that we've got that covered, feel free to type in any questions about agroecology or what we're doing as we walk. I think we're going to start by walking over to the restoration projects. So I think I really purposefully said that this idea of agroecology encompasses farming as a holistic practice. And one of the most important pieces of how we farm is integrating restoration ecology. And restoration work is kind of repairing damaged ecosystems. Ecosystems are usually damaged by human intervention. So we are, where we're standing, Coast Salish land is historically a wetland. This land wants to be a wetland. We're right next to the Duwamish River, which you can't quite see yet, but we'll show you later on. And this land used to flood seasonally. And the river was dredged out and straightened by white settlers when they came and logged this whole area. And it's been farmed, I think, since the 1920s. And we'll highlight a little bit more about the agricultural land later. But what you need to know is a lot of this land still wants to be wetland. And we know that by the flora and fauna that are present, as well as the soil type and the hydrology, the way the water moves across the land. So Jess, our restoration specialist, who is just a complete badass of a woman, am I right? Correct, Erin says.
Yes.
She does some really cool work. And my favorite thing that she does is she's experimenting. She's kind of taking that experiential knowledge to heart and saying, okay, this land is different than other wetlands, even in King County. How are we going to use restoration techniques to bring back the wetland? So I want to highlight a couple things she's doing. This is a project where we have been, I guess I should start with the issue. So this area that we're standing in next to the goat pen is just inundated with reed canary grass. And we wrote a blog post about this, so you can check out our blog if you want to learn more. But this is reed canary grass, and it's very evil. I would say that it's my least favorite invasive weed on the property. That's a bold statement.
Could we get a close-up of it so everyone knows the menace that is?
The menace that is. And what I kind of didn't pull it up great, but there's this big root structure. And what the reed canary grass does, is, I mean, it grows rampantly. Like, this has all been mowed down and planted and gone, you know, it's dead a little bit this time of year, but it is just rampant. Actually, maybe we can walk this way so you can see it more. And when it grows so tightly packed, not only is it disrupting other plant communities, native plant communities that want to be here, it's also actually changing the hydrology, the way the water moves across the land, because it's pooling water and doing weird things. So you can see just to the south of where this field of reed canary is where we're farming. And it's creating some issues with the way the water moves, among other things. It's also just like expanding. The reed canary is just like expanding and growing. So Jess has tried some things. She's mowed it down. We had pigs. We ran pigs in this area earlier in the summer with this incredible student, Masra, who is I guess I would call him a student farmer. Is that fair, Erin? Yeah. And he's this incredible young man who ran 4 pigs. And actually, Ari, we're having one of the pig for dinner tonight. Very exciting. My partner Ari is on the call, and he's usually a vegetarian, but he has agreed to eat Maxwell. So anyway, put him on blast. Yeah. So we had the pigs run through here, and that's a huge part of what animals can do for soil. So we're not just using them for meat or animal products. They're really contributing to our soil practices, our soil management practices. And I guess I should say that all of the farming that we do, including our restoration work, is focused with soil health in mind. We kind of joke that we produce beautiful vegetables by accident, and the main goal and time spent on farming is managing your soil and protecting your soil communities. So the pigs are run through here, and they tilled everything up. They rooted out some of the reed canary, the rhizomes, root balls, and other things. And interestingly, they seem to have left the native rose alone, which is, I don't know, maybe they know what's native. I don't think so. I don't know why, but what a cool.
Maybe the pokies.
Maybe the pokies. Oh, that's true. They're all just pokey. Yeah, Erin's being a little more realistic here.
They left the fern and rush alone also.
They also left the fern and rush alone. That's a good point, which are native species. That's really interesting. Yeah. So once the pigs kind of came through and helped clear this of reed canary on a basis, we've come in and we've planted these, or planted is a loose term, I'll explain. We've live staked these willows. And Jess got 3 different species of willows. I know one was a Sitka willow, and I can't remember the other 2. Do you remember, Erin?
No, I know there was also some cottonwood.
I think these were just the willow stakes, weren't they? Maybe there's cottonwood too. Well, willows grow really fast, and you can just cut pieces off them. And they're essentially asexually reproducing them. You're cloning these willow stakes. So you can kind of see all the purple flags in this area. Erin will sweep around. Rian, can you see that?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can see all the flags.
Yeah. And Rian was out here helping plant as well. We had a big staff party. Yeah. So these guys are going to grow really quick and hopefully shade out that sun-loving reed canary. So this is one sort of experimental method of restoration that we're doing. And then I just want to highlight another one. If Erin stands up, do you see that giant, what looks like a big black tarp behind there?
Yeah.
That is a silage tarp. And what we're doing is we're trying to solarize the weeds underneath it. So this was more reed canary grass. So you can see these two side-by-side experiments of how we're learning about our land and what works best to mitigate reed canary. So this is solarizing, it's creating a really hot environment under there that the reed canary grass can't survive. So if we pull this back slightly, you can see underneath it's really died. And this has been on here, we put it on last March, is that right? No, it was earlier than that. Last fall? I can't remember either. Sometime last season. So it's been on here for almost a year. And we'll leave it on until next spring. And then Jess will come in and plant in here. So that's pretty cool. Shading effect. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. That's probably an easier way of saying it. A shading effect.
Different route from willows.
Yeah, a different way of shading than the willows. So the willows are also shading. So we're kind of using this. We know that reed canary grass really likes sun. So we're kind of manipulating and saying, okay, how can we, terminate the reed canary grass with these different ways of doing it. Does anyone have any questions about our restoration practices here?
Yeah, we actually did just got a question from Colin in the chat. Thank you. Colin asks about the silage tarp. Does that basically just burn the weeds?
It doesn't burn them. Aaron, do you want to answer?
Yeah.
Can you talk really loudly?
Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Hello, friends. So basically the reed canary, it can't deal with shade. It's a full sun-loving plant. So it's basically the same as the willow staking, with the idea that it'll grow up and shade out and change the environment. The silage tarp just does that kind of express. So it lets no sun get through. So nothing can germinate or photosynthesize. And so it just, without having any kind of input to those root systems, any kind of way to produce energy, starch, anything like that, they just shut down and they die. And all the roots will just decompose in place.
Exactly. Cool. Thank you. Maybe one last thing to demonstrate about our restoration practices. So some of it is this like long game of trying to eradicate the reed canary grass. Another big issue we have, and this is a field that's been really, the ecosystem has been really destroyed by the invasive plant, I think would be fair to say. We also have some slightly more wetlandy ecosystems that are still pretty wetlandy, but we're just inundated with Himalayan blackberry. So behind us, this is something that the crew has been working on a lot the last couple weeks, or excuse me, the last couple months. And we have had volunteers coming in on Saturdays, just a much reduced number for COVID, but still mighty in the work that they've done. And this area used to be, I kid you not, a wall of blackberry. Can you see that now?
Oh, that's insane. You guys did so much work.
I know. Yeah,
wow.
So you can actually see through it, which was really exciting. So we've come through and cut down all the blackberry and dug out the crowns. So yeah, I guess I would highlight that restoration is kind of equal parts like hope and curiosity, and like incredibly hard work, and then like scientific experimentation. But it's a really cool science. I've really enjoyed learning more about it, and just how essential it is to our farming practice and to climate action. I know our coworker Jess, who runs the restoration program, is always talking about how restoration is kind of like the easiest connection to climate action. Like you're restoring a habitat that provides so many ecosystem services to the farm, to the community, to climate action. Yeah. Ding ding. Okay, cool. Shall we go out to the farm and talk about soil health?
Yeah, let's go out to the farm. Okay.
I guess we already are on the farm, but we'll go out to the cover crop area, and then Mom, we will see the greenhouse. My mom is asking about the greenhouse because we spent several weeks building it. Really, Aaron and Anthony, who's our lead farmer, but I did do some power drilling. I will say.
That was the power of the people.
The power of the people. That's what Aaron's saying. So we'll kind of walk through, but we'll highlight this a little bit later. I just want to get us out to the cover crop here. We're kind of walking by the silage tarp so you can see just how large it is. Do folks have any questions about restoration in general, ecosystem services, how it connects to the farm? Y'all are a quiet bunch today.
Yeah, if you feel comfortable and you'd like to unmute, you can absolutely feel encouraged to do that, or just type in the chat. It's such a it's a really beautiful landscape today. It's so misty. Is it raining?
Yes.
Oh, it's actually raining. Okay.
It is. Not hard, but hard enough that we've got our rain jackets on. Okay, well, if there's no more questions about restoration, we can come back to that a little bit later if needed. But
oh,
we're out. Oh,
we actually have one question.
Oh,
from Rose, wondering what that black thing was that's on the ground. Was that
that's the silage tarp.
The silage tarp.
Mm-hmm.
That's the solarization. Oh yes, that one. Yeah, another silage tarp.
That's actually the same one, just different angle. We've kind of walked around it very sneakily.
Okay.
Oh, Aaron has made an important correction. Thank you. So solarization is actually, I was saying it wrong, is with clear plastic. And when it's black plastic, it's called occultation.
Yeah. One is the lack of light.
One is great. So occultation is lack of light and solarization is using the light to maybe fry it more, like what Colin was asking about. Thank you. Yeah, I just learned something. Awesome.
Solarizing here only works during the summer.
Solarizing only works during the summer, Aaron is telling me, which makes sense because we live in this is an important thing, if you, right? Like understanding the land and experiential knowledge, we know that we just like don't get a ton of sun in the winter. Yeah. Ding ding. It's interesting because technically where I learned to farm in Massachusetts, we're in the same agricultural zone. They're both 7A here and there, but it's like such a different 7A.
I was 8A, just a few miles away.
Yeah, Aaron was saying he was an 8A, just a few miles growing up in Everett. Yeah, Aaron's a local guy, which is really cool. So he's been in this ecosystem for most of his life, or maybe slightly different if it's 8A, but very close. Okay. Yeah, pretty squishy though his whole life, he's saying. Cool. So we wanted to highlight. So we still have a few things in the ground here. Maybe before we talk about cover crop, we can show them some of our crops, which are looking a little rough, but yes, thank you. So these aren't things that we actually like purposely plant. Like, well, how would you say it, Aaron? They're just coming back. They're past.
Where we couldn't get cover crop.
Yeah. So they passed their prime after the point where we put cover crop in. So we put cover crop in the beginning of October. Oh no, end of September this year. Mid September. Both. Yeah, I guess there was the cover crop season where it was a pretty intense couple of weeks there that we were constantly putting cover crop in, and we can talk about that a little bit more in a second. But these guys were still growing, so we're going to let them continue and do their thing. It's very essential that we don't have bare soil. But that being said, there's still some really tasty things out here. Some of this arugula is actually still pretty good. Ari, I'm bringing some home to make pesto. I'll just try it since you can't. It's still really good.
Is it spicy?
It is spicy, but it's like mellowed out a little bit. Yeah. So we had some like Asian green mixes here. And we still have a lot of kale that's quite beautiful. So even though it's November, things are still growing. We're really lucky that it never, it's not as cold as it could be in November, is what I would say.
No, last year around this time, we had a cold snap of about 25
Yeah,
degrees.
Aaron's reminding me that last year at this time of the year, we had a cold snap of like 25 degrees. And last year was like the rainiest November on record.
Yeah,
this year's gonna be rainier. Yeah. Hashtag climate change. Yeah. So
warm and wet this winter.
Warm and wet this winter. We'll see. That's what they're predicting. We can talk a little bit more later if folks are interested about just like what we're experiencing as folks who work on the land with climate action. Excuse me, climate change. I mean, it's just been brutal this year, huh? Cool. So you can see some of the other crops that are still in, but what we really wanted, oh, Aaron, of course. Aaron loves mushrooms. He's good at identifying them too. Oh, okay. I wanted to show them the cover crop. So do folks know what cover crop is? Has anyone ever heard of cover crop? Can you share in the chat if you know what cover crop is or what your familiarity is? Is anyone sharing?
Not yet about the cover crop. We had a couple questions about the silage tarp just again, and I answered in the chat.
Oh, great. Then we'll keep going. Okay, cover crop for you quiet people, cover crop is basically anything that you're growing for the benefit of the soil.
Oh.
Aaron's looking at me like that's not a great definition.
No.
I think that's like the baseline. That's what cover crop is. And there are hundreds of different cover crops that you can grow, each with unique uses and things that they're contributing to the farming ecosystem or the soil ecosystem. Cover crop is an ancient practice. It's been done for millennia by farmers all over the globe. This is not like a Western scientific process. We definitely use it in the way that we farm.
We use it, but we did not invent it.
We use it, but we did not invent it. I think that's important to acknowledge. I would say it's a regenerative farming practice. So what looks like grass is not. Well, it is a grass, yeah. So this is our rye vetch cover crop mix. Do you want to kind of zoom in on that? I don't know if you can see so much vetch here. Oh, here's some. So this is a rye vetch mix, and each cover crop is going to do unique things, like I said. The rye is, I think, one of the coolest things to highlight is it's alleliopathic, which is a fancy word, but basically the root system, maybe Aaron will pull out a little root for you to see. I mean, they're babies right now, but the root system kind of secretes a chemical that actually inhibits other plants from growing. In this field, this is field B, we have a huge weed issue. It was very challenging this summer to keep up with the weed pressure. So one of the things we're doing in the quote unquote off season, I'm quoting that because we're not really taking a break. So in our off season, we're kind of continuing that mitigation of our weed seed bank, meaning the weeds that grow and drop seeds and then keep growing. That's what we're really focused on stopping that cycle. So by using a cover crop that's alleliopathic or helping to inhibit weed growth, that's giving us a head start in the spring. Rye also has a lot of other stuff it does well, but that's one thing I would highlight. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Aaron would also highlight erosion. It's good, actually kind of like that reed canary. They're both grasses. The root system really keeps the soil from running away in the water, which is also an issue with that reed canary field we have, which is just north of our fields. The hydrology is messed up, so we do have some erosion issues. And you can see this line of trees right here behind me to the south. That's a little ditch that connects to the Sammamish River. So we are, again, very much integrated into the water system here.
Right.
Yeah. Aaron, do you want to add anything about cover crop? Probably. Our cover crop master. Do you want to sort of yell into this?
Well, the cover crop, the main use we have for the rye over the winter is a big part to, of course, rejuvenate the soil. We will terminate it and turn it in place.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So it'll help feed the soil and the microbes in the soil. As I said, erosion is a big issue here, considering how wet it is. We are in, historical wetlands here. So really it can get wet enough to where the soil can just flow kind of like just like a liquid. it really will move in quite a real way.
Yeah.
But there's a myriad of other uses, depending on the seasonality and where you are and what you are trying to accomplish. There's mustards can be used as a biofumigant. They can be turned into soil and help with certain different diseases or whatnot in the soil.
We also have in one of our outer fields that we're probably not going to walk over to today, we've planted a barley pea mix. And that's because so Masra, who ran the pigs last year, will be back hopefully this next summer with pigs. So we've planted cover crop out there, which is not only going to do all these things supporting the soil, but will act as forage for pigs. So you can use it.
Stacking forage crop. Crop.
Stacking forage crop, cover crop is what Aaron's saying. I also realized I didn't talk about like how you cover a crop. Is anyone interested?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we have a couple of questions that came up, and first one I'm super curious. Biofumigant ? I had the exact same thought. Alexander typed biofumigant. What does that mean?
Let's see if Aaron can explain.
All right. So when we think about mustards, there's basically the spicy greens, right? You've bitten into a mustard green because it tastes like, wasabi or horseradish.
Yes.
For that same reason, they're good at if you have certain soil-borne pests or diseases. That same effect is a biofumigant. It's basically a way to help fumigate the soil by crushing up the plant tissue, which in our case would be flail mowing, and then turning it into the soil so that that plant tissue is in contact with the soil.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it can help get rid of different either pest issues, or it could be also for soil-borne diseases.
Yeah.
That is the coolest thing ever. So essentially when
Nature.
it
beats spraying.
composts or when it starts to decompose and like touches the leaves of the mustard to the soil, that's when that reaction happens. Okay.
Yes.
Where a lilipath like the rye is mostly root exudates, it's with the mustard greens, it's that plant tissue. So it's important that you crush it up and turn it into the soil. That's a practice that would not work as well with a no-till system.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. So I think that's a good one. Oh, sorry. There was another question about cover crop.
Yeah, we have a couple. They're awesome. So I guess that kind of feeds in, like, could you also eat some of them like humans? Can we eat some of these crops?
Yeah. So a lot of what we grow as a cover crop could also be grown for like production yield. The big difference is we're gonna terminate the cover crop or like turn it in at a different point than when you would grow to eat it. For example, like ryegrass, you can grow rye as a cereal crop to like rye flour, rye bread, etc. But here we're gonna terminate the rye just at anthesis, right when those seed pods start to form. Is that correct? Yeah.
Correct. When they become viable.
When they become viable, thank you. So we're gonna terminate that crop just as it's finished, because again, the rye, we want those goodies from the roots, those root exudates, all that stuff. So once it starts putting its energy into the seed head, we don't need it anymore.
Well, that's when we want to terminate it so it doesn't come back.
And also we don't want the seeds to drop, and then we have a different sort of weed seed bank, but it's just cover crop. We saw that happen in one of the outer fields with turnips, where we had a cover crop of turnips that wasn't terminated. That's a hard sentence to say.
Yeah.
Turnips that weren't terminated at the right time, and now we're just like getting like, oh, actually, here's one. Look, here's a remnant turnip when cover crop wasn't. So now we just have these like massive turnip daddies all over the farm, which I mean, we can still eat them and they're lovely, but it's maybe not what was intended.
Take mustard greens. They're edible.
Yeah, mustard greens are definitely edible.
We use buckwheat, which
buckwheat
be used as a flour pretty.
Oh my gosh, we had an incident. We had a summer crop of buckwheat that was just kind of right over here. And maybe I was hoping to show them the apiary in a little bit. Maybe we could just
could go find buckwheat stems.
Yeah, so buckwheat pollinators love, and we have this apiary. I don't know if you can see it in the corner. We'll walk over closer to it later. But we ended up having this buckwheat cover crop with our kale in between where the apiary and the buckwheat was. And there was a period of a couple of weeks where we couldn't get into harvest because the bees were so obsessed with the buckwheat, they were attacking us.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Wild. Was there another cover crop question, Ryan?
One that Margaret brought up, but was kind of answered when you were talking, was do any animals try to eat the cover crops?
Oh, I think my mom is goading me.
Yeah, the goats definitely are pests. No, they're fantastic. I love them. They're not pests.
The cover crop is good grazing, but the farm pets much prefer our crops.
Yeah, we've had some issues, but we do have like so we have a lot of migratory birds that come through, like the Canada geese and other there were trumpeter swans at one point. Right, last year. So there's different migratory birds that come through, and sometimes they will eat some of our cover crop, which we're happy to share. It's support the bird population.
Just one more ecosystem service.
One more ecosystem service, as Erin said. Unless there's other questions about cover crop, I did want to talk about soil health in general really quick.
Yeah. There's one more.
Great.
Alexander may have missed this, but what is the relationship between fallow and a cover crop? And I also wanted to update you. The time is 11:36.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Aaron looked really excited about that question, so I'm going to let him answer. So the difference between fallow and cover crop, was that it?
Yeah. They can be both. So in our crop rotation, it's a 7-year crop rotation, and in one of those 7 years, we have it fallow. So it is taken out of production, and there's no crops planted in it, but it does have successions of cover crops. So we'll grow a cover crop out, terminate it, turn it in, and replant to a new cover crop. Yeah, excuse that. Sorry. Hi. There's a delay in my head. It sounds funny on my end, so bear with me. But yeah, fallow just means that you're not actively farming it. A fallow block can be, like I said, cover cropped. Some regenerative practices can bring animals onto fallow blocks, kind of to help rejuvenate them, drop some of their scat behind to fertilize it and whatnot. Especially pigs do a lot of tilling. So fallow doesn't mean it's just sitting there and abandoned. It just means it's not actively being taken from by cropping. We use our fallow time to basically rejuvenate our fields.
Cool. Thank you, Aaron. That was a great answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we need a break from like soil science? Where are we at?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, sorry, folks. Oh.
What happened? Here we go. I'll real quick highlight. I sort of forgot this, and I just want to share when we were talking about how each ecosystem and land is so different, right? And like valuing experiential knowledge. There's also like hundreds, probably thousands of different soil types, and I just wanted to quickly share. I'm just going to pick up some soil.
This is Erlenmont silty loam.
Erlenmont silty loam, if you can't hear Aaron, is the soil type that we work with in this particular field. It's very like mucky. Not as much as the Tequila muck in one of our other fields. But yeah, I just want to share that we base our soil health management, our soil management plan on the particular soil that we're working with. So when we talk about soil health, which is soil's ability to function. Soil health is like in the middle of this Venn diagram of three different things: the biological health, the chemical health, and the biological properties, physical properties, chemical properties of soil, and health is in the middle. Blah, blah, blah. So the physical properties would be like, I'm looking at this soil type that we have, and it's combined of the aggregates of sand, silt, and clay, and water and air. You can't change the composition of soil. You have what you have, but you can use different things to help it. The chemical piece of that Venn diagram, we're really focused on the pH. We don't need to go more into that, I think, but just know that chemical stuff matters. I'm worried about going too much into that. And the biological piece is what makes soil alive. So that's all your macroinvertebrates, your fungi, everything living in the soil. So you want those three things to be in balance with themselves and with each other to create soil health, which allows the soil to function and to farm. Any questions on that?
You want to go grab a handful of muck?
We could grab muck. Maybe we should do bees though if we're running out of time. Oh, and it's compost. One greenhouse. Uh-oh. Okay, we gotta go.
Run!
No questions so far?
Not yet about soil health.
Okay, then we're gonna, I think, and please write in the chat if you want to see something else, but I think with our time left, we'll quickly go look, not quickly, we will, what are you showing me?
Greenhouse bees.
Greenhouse bees, and then chickens?
Yeah,
That sounds awesome.
Right,
Oh, and compost, yeah. Okay, great, that sounds good. I think at least one person was interested in our solar stuff, so I want to make sure we get to that.
And
This
you
is
have
so muddy right now.
20 minutes. So I think you have plenty of time.
Awesome. We're not really going to talk about it, but what you're seeing as we walk by is our wash pack, which is where, we harvest out here, and this is where we wash and pack all the produce. It's a little bit of a mess right now after the season. It needs to get reorganized. This is the season on the farm. Not only is cover crop growing, but we are kind of doing all of the infrastructure projects that need to get done before the season starts again. And we'll start planting things in the greenhouse in late February. So we've got mid-February this year? Sometime in February.
Late January.
Late January?
Alliums.
Alliums, thank you, late January. So we've got like a pretty small window of like, gotta do all these projects. And maybe you didn't know, but farmers are also actually like construction workers and like professional organizers and like plumbers, tool fixers, electricians.
Mechanic.
Aaron is actually a mechanic. Bless him. He fixed my car.
And
so,
helps the farm truck. It all really comes together on the farm.
I know. I'm saying like we all wear many hats, so Aaron is actually a legit mechanic. But so I think the coolest thing that happened, like I mentioned before, this season is we built this what I think is a pretty dang impressive greenhouse. We needed a larger structure. We just were really limited in what we could grow last year because of the size of our greenhouse. And there were a couple other sort of like technology that we wanted to implement in this greenhouse. So here it is, totally built by us on the farm. Our coworker and farm manager, Anthony, has a lot of experience and knowledge in building greenhouses. So we are blessed to have that. Just wanted to kind of show you, we took this metal conduit and Aaron kept saying it's a little bit wonky because it's artisanally hand bent.
It looks amazing.
What'd you think?
Still active construction.
Still active construction, yeah, as you can see. But we've got, the siding that can roll up, so we're able to control the temperature better. Aaron, do you want to share about the vent here? Because that was really cool.
So we will have doors on it. We don't yet.
Sliding doors.
Sliding doors, yeah, because we're chic. And so the vent up there has a cylinder that has wax in it. And so as that wax heats up, it actually opens the vents automatically. And then likewise, when it cools, the wax goes through the part of the cylinder and it will close those vents. So those are all automatic for our ventilation.
Isn't that so cool?
Wow, the wax technology, that is amazing.
Yeah, right? Like it's like so innovative and yet so simple.
On both ends.
Both ends, there are the vents that do that. Yeah, so I think I'm not going to crank on them right now just because, well, are folks interested in seeing? Probably not. That's something that we think is cool.
Oh, we do have a question wondering
sure.
What you will be growing in the greenhouse. And we would like to see the vents.
Okay, did my mom say that?
Yep. That Margaret asked, what will we be growing in the greenhouse?
So we're going to be growing a lot of stuff in here. Well, not all. So there's what we grow out in the fields during the season is either direct sown, which is like crops that will sow directly into the fields. Examples of that might be like beets and carrots. Things. And then there are other crops that do better starting in the greenhouse and transplanting. So you're either direct seeding or you're transplanting. So everything that we're growing on the farm that's going to need to be transplanted, we will be growing in this here structure. So things like alliums, that's what Aaron was saying, that will start in January. Those are like onions and scallions, things like that need an early start. We'll grow all of our tomatoes and peppers, cucumbers, squash will get started in there. So much, anything will grow. Bunching greens, kale, chard. Bunching greens are like things that come in bunches, like collards, etc., etc. Yeah. So here's this, we're really excited about this, that it actually is going to work.
So we can't see what's going on, Aaron.
Will you come closer, Aaron?
Oh, you're lifting up the sides?
Yeah, I'm cranking and it's lifting up the side.
And so the temperature.
And it's gonna.
Oh, sorry, I'm interjecting. Can you explain again about the wax part?
Yeah, we'll explain in a moment, but this is like a hand crank. So I'm hand cranking the sides to lift up the whole side, and the other side also does the same, and that's going to increase ventilation. So I'm going to go ahead and close this back down, and then Aaron maybe can go give you a close up on that wax.
It allows the side to roll up to the
hipboard. The side can roll all the way up to the hipboard, which this is called a hipboard, which makes me laugh because it's actually like a headboard. Whatever. Okay, I think for time's sake, we're gonna go over to the apiary, which we will walk over to. Which one should we go to, Aaron?
Maybe this one.
The Woodland one? Sure. We've got 4 apiaries at this point on the farm. Apiary is a bee home. Does anyone keep bees or has had experience with bees?
Alexander does. That's so awesome.
Oh, cool.
How long have you been keeping them for? None right now, but you've had them for a few years. Oh, I bet it was
Oh,
so
cool.
rewarding.
I just want to highlight like this particular luscious batch of cover crop right here as we're walking through. Sorry. You can tell that Erin and I are like solely focused on cover crop. It is so beautiful.
So nice.
That's awesome, Alexander. Oh wait, is Alexander Ari or we have a different Alexander?
Last name is Kaufman.
Yeah, that's Ari.
That's Ari. Oh my gosh, hi Ari.
So
hello, one and the same.
So this is, I'm actually not going to get too close to this side because this is our sort of angry apiary. They all seem to have a different personality. This is our Hedgerow Apiary, and it's called the Hedgerow. I guess I should highlight, this is a cool moment. So we have the, obviously non-native European honeybees here. And then this is our pollinator hedgerow, which doesn't look like much now, but there's flowers in bloom. Jess has planted it so it's like consecutive blooming throughout the whole season, and this provides habitat and forage for native pollinators. We're doing a lot of pollination kind of experimental projects on the farm right now. We also, I'm sorry, we didn't actually walk by it, but we do have a native pollinator garden that's just gone in by a volunteer, Kevin, who's incredible. We got a grant through our partnership with bee vesting, I believe. If Robin's still here, correct me if that's not totally right. And so yeah, so lots of different kind of pollination experiments happening around here. But folks are usually really excited about bees. So I just wanted to show you, these bees are wrapped up for the winter. So they're insulated. Bees can overwinter. We have a lot of issues in the state of Washington with it being really wet in the winter and there being like predatory wasps and things. So it's quite common to lose a hive over winter, but we'll see. Fingers crossed that they all survive this year. Does anyone have any specific questions about bees or pollinators? And maybe Ari, I mean, not Ari, Aaron can come over here. There's so many men with A names.
Oh yeah, both of the farmers. Yeah.
Yeah, Anthony, Aaron, my partner Ari. I'm always calling them the wrong name.
They got tin roof.
Yeah, so Aaron's saying they have a tin roof, which is like protecting a little bit from the elements, rain and snow if we get any this year. This cork board is also helping with insulation, as well as this black plastic, which is actually insulation. You can see that it's really thick and malleable. We're standing on the back side because they have their entrance in the front, and we're trying not to get them riled up, if you will. Yeah. So if no one's super excited about bees, we're going to head over to this aerated static compost pile.
It's so nice to see the this view of the garden. Erin, do you mind showing us the right side? And
oh yeah, this is our what was once the youth garden, and we've sort of re-COVID and changes in the organization. We've kind of pivoted from youth education, quite sad, but this space has been stewarded by the Rotary volunteers this season, which has been a really cool partnership. And we're not totally sure what this is going to be used for next year. It's like a really exciting canvas.
I'm sure it'll be, I mean, it's just a really beautiful space, and we'll still be very much
beautiful space.
educated.
Yeah, and this space was also originally put in and stewarded by a group of veterans that were on the farm for several years. I unfortunately, off the top of my head, don't know the total history. If anyone does, jump in.
The veterans half acre, yeah, was a
Yes.
really beautiful project. A group of local veterans came together and tried to, I know that a lot of the work helped, relieve PTSD, build a really nice sense of community, and kind of, give back to the earth a little bit. It was like the sanctuary for them at one point. It's really nice.
Cool. We're passing by one of our other fields that's got cover crop coming in a little bit slower. Walking by the old greenhouse. This little one I think will be coming down. Oh, I found Anthony's coffee cup.
Oh, look at
Sorry. He was looking for that. We're always leaving our like coffee and tea mugs around the farm. Okay, so you know, one of the things we're really trying to do, one of the regenerative practices we're really trying to work on is closing our loops. And one of those big loops is with our all the material we're pulling out from our restoration projects. So do you remember kind of back next to the silage tarp we looked at was that what was once a thicket of blackberry, and we were telling you that we pulled all that blackberry out. Is this ringing a bell? Maybe. Yeah. Hopefully. So we had this like huge amount of material, of plant material, right? And what do you do with that? That is, there's carbon in that plant material, and we're trying to close our loops, and particularly these carbon loops, right? When we're working on, oh God, we didn't even talk about carbon in the soil.
Sure didn't.
We sure didn't. We'll come back to that in just a second. Apologies. So we're again trying to close these loops. So we're composting blackberry plant material is very challenging. It's super woody. Erin, maybe you can come kind of show a close up over here. It's not an easy thing to compost. Traditionally, folks take invasive species and like send them out to Cedar Grove or different composting facilities that have the infrastructure and the space to do things like that. But we're trying again to see, like, can we close this loop? Is this an experiment we want to try to take on just to keep the carbon that's, you know, had been growing in these blackberry and keep that on the property and use that. So we're trying this new method of compost, and it may or may not work, but that's pretty exciting, I think. And it's called aerated static compost. And what we're doing is, you know, we build this massive compost pile, and you can see this one with the plastic on top is covered. Pop quiz. If it's clear plastic, is it solarization or occultation? What is it called? Occultation. Who knows?
I'm gonna wait. Colin says occultation, and Ari says solarization.
And in this particular case, Ari is correct. A clear plastic would be solarization. Black plastic, which is what we were talking about before, it would be
solarization. When there's not much sun, there's more of a greenhouse effect. If you can.
Yeah. So did you hear Erin's making a really great point that in the winter, the solarizing technique actually doesn't work. It's creating a greenhouse effect, and you can see that the weeds are just growing underneath there. But that's okay, because this is an experiment, right? So what we did in this pile, and I'm gonna explain like kind of how you do it and then why I think it's like so freaking cool. So we laid a tarp underneath to keep any weed seeds from getting in the ground here. And then we, before we piled on our compost, like you might do in just like binned compost, we have this metal pipe that runs along that bottom tarp. And you can see the pipe over here. It's just a metal guy, you know, about this size. And there's holes in it throughout. Being attacked by this apple tree. There's holes in it along where the compost is. And what the piping is for is if you come over here underneath this handy little weatherization thing, you can see this fan. And the fan is blowing air through the compost pile. And you see this extension cord, and you're saying, Emily, how the heck do you have power out on your farm? Well, folks, we have this solar panel. So we're using clean energy, green energy with the solar panel, which our energy manager, Barry, set up to run the solarization that's going to help us turn our dreaded blackberry material, hopefully back into soil in a timely fashion. So if we weren't, you can hear the rooster next door, sorry. So if we didn't have this aeration system, so there's two ways that things can break down. And aerobically or anaerobically. Am I saying that right? I always say that word wrong. So it's like with oxygen or without oxygen. So by blowing air through this, we're creating more of an ecosystem that involves a lot of oxygen, which is hopefully going to wake up all those microbes and macroinvertebrates and things and help break down faster. Why we turn compost, Erin is saying, is you're aerating compost, but it's really challenging when you have a lot of compost to like have little bins and turn them all the time, and it's just so much physical labor and time. So we're hoping that this method is going to work better. This method is usually used with animal manure and things like mulch. So this is, as far as I know, I don't think we found any literature using it for like large scale invasive. Is that right, Erin?
It's usually not for a lot of woody debris.
Yeah, usually not for a lot of woody debris. So this is definitely an experiment. So stay tuned for, 6 months from now, and we'll see what happens. But that's pretty cool. Any questions on, and here's the second pile that we're doing. You can see the pipe a little bit more along here. Does anyone have any more questions on how we use green energy on the farm or other technologies or compost in general?
There's one question in the chat, unrelated. Maybe this will give a break for folks who might want to type a question about the technology. There's one about asking why not harvest the blackberries, and we actually do harvest the blackberries.
We do,
but they're so intense. And
I think Erin can actually turn around and you can see just on the other side of the property line. This is what the blackberries look like.
They're too many.
See? It is uncontrollable, and blackberries don't just reproduce by their seeds.
This is
of the fruit. They're like little like zombie creatures, like if they have like a small part of them, they can like root and just come back. So it's a really challenging invasive species to deal with. It's not just about eradicating the seed bank. It's kind of a little more intensive. Also, I mean, if you want to come pick all of our blackberries, come on down.
Yes, I was gonna say we do have in the August months, we have people come glean the blackberries, and they're really delicious.
Totally.
Oh, it looks like we're running out of time. We're already at 11:59.
Oh my God, what?
Go. I'm so sorry about that.
Shoot. Okay, no, that's okay. Well, maybe we'll just, if folks can stay an extra like 2 minutes, Erin's been so excited to talk about animals, so I'm just gonna, do you want to give like a 1-minute synopsis?
Sure.
And then, yeah, so these are our chickens.
These are 3 out of our 4 chickens. Pretty small flock.
Was bigger at one point.
At one point, yes. They don't have a whole ton of impact on our land at the moment, but are maintained in a way that is scalable to where you could use them in fallow blocks or running borders around fields or really however. Right now, they've been bouncing back and forth in our apple orchard, helping to kind of clear out some of the bugs around the bases mostly. We do have a good bit of maintenance to do yet. But they're taking some of the insect issues and whatnot and lessening that and turning it into eggs for us.
Yeah. So
leaving fertilizer behind.
Yeah. So I guess the point being here is that there's a lot of integration of animal systems into like holistic land stewardship practices, and agroecology and climate action. Those like big things that we're all talking about often include animals, and we've run out of time to say more than that. So I guess I would just conclude, and in a moment I'm going to ask for any last questions, but I would just say I hope y'all take away from this the importance of like knowing the land that you're stewarding and creating practices that work based on where you're at, and in appropriately managing your soil and the land that you're on, you're actually really contributing to climate action and to a more, I would say like a just food system. We didn't even talk about food systems, but we will next time. So join us. Or carbon. Geez. Okay. So with that, if you have time, if you need to sign off, thank you so much for joining us. Please check out our website. There's tons more educational materials there. Feel free to email us any more questions. Rhiannon will be sending out an email at the end of this with a few resources based on what we've talked about. And Erin and I will stay on here for a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Thank you so much. Really grateful for everyone who was able to join us today. And yes,
me too.
Like the when you contribute to restoring a landscape, you really do have a very massive impact on climate action and soil, like directly impacting the soil, the health of your water too. And I'll definitely be sending some more information on that. Feel free to browse our blog. It's probably the greatest, my favorite part of the website is the blog. There's so much talented work. Thank you all. Looks like we're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat. Excited to see if the willow sticks work. Very cool. Same. I'm so looking forward to seeing them in the spring. We'll probably be able to tell then. Coming up. Well, if anyone also has other questions, the email that I'll send out has contact information for Emily, and you can absolutely connect with us. We love you. We want to hear from you. So just hang out virtually with us whenever you can. Okay, I guess I will sign off, and we'll see you guys at our next fun event. Thank you so much.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.